Świątek's preparation before stepping onto a match court is never casual, never rushed, and never random. What she does with her arm in those minutes before competition is the perfect window into how a world-class modern player prepares the body for a style of tennis built on heavy rotation, elastic power, and relentless acceleration. She isn't just waking up her muscles, she's tuning a very advanced engine designed to deliver the heaviest balls in women's tennis. And when you understand what her arm goes through during a match, the routine becomes not just sensible, but essential. Her game is built around the ability to accelerate the racket head faster than almost any of her competitors. You see it on her forehand, the signature shot that kicks up off the clay, dives violently on hard courts, and forces opponents back even when they think they're positioned well inside the baseline. But that kind of ball doesn't come from simply having talent. It is created through massive rotational force, beginning from the legs, traveling through the hips, passing through the trunk, and finally exploding out through the arms. For that chain to work in real time at top speed under pressure, the upper limb must already be firing correctly. It cannot be sluggish and it cannot be stiff. Every muscle group across the arm has a specific job, and each of those jobs demands a very precise form of activation. When she begins to warm the shoulder region, she is preparing the rotator cuff, the deep stabilizing muscles that sit under the deltoid and are responsible for keeping the humeral head centered within the socket while she swings at extreme speeds. These muscles, especially the infraspinatus and teres minor, play a massive role in controlling external rotation, which is the movement that allows her to load and whip the racket through contact. If these muscles are even slightly cold, the shoulder joint loses its fine-tuned stability. That not only reduces racket speed, but also increases stress on the joint. For a player who hits with the intensity Iga does, instability is not an option. As she continues activating the arm, the larger muscles, the deltoid, biceps, and triceps, begin to wake up to their role as power transmitters. The deltoid contributes heavily to raising the arm into proper hitting position and supporting the fast change of direction that happens between backswing and forward swing. The biceps help control the elbow angle during the loading phase, while the triceps accelerate the arm through extension just before contact. These aren't muscles that work in isolation, and they don't fire at one slow, predictable tempo. They operate like a series of rapid response engines, constantly adjusting to the shot she's preparing to hit, the height of the bounce, the rhythm of the rally, and where her feet land. Then you move a little deeper into the forearm, and this is where the details become critical for a player like Iga. Her forearm is one of the most important parts of her entire technical system. The flexor and extensor groups around the forearm manage wrist control, absorb vibration, and dictate how much spin she can create on short notice. Her grip strength, not just raw squeezing power, but dynamic grip modulation, is an essential piece of why her balls jump so violently off the court. During a point, her wrist is constantly adjusting. A micro relaxation here, a tiny firming there, subtle angle changes that allow her to vary trajectory and spin without changing the overall shape of her swing. These muscles fatigue quickly if they're not activated correctly beforehand, and when they fatigue, the entire forehand loses its bite. Even deeper than that, the small stabilizers around the wrist must be primed. These muscles are responsible for the racket head maintaining that beautiful lag position she is known for. Without that stable but loose wrist, the whip disappears. And once the whip disappears, she starts hitting flatter, shorter, and more predictable. At her level, predictability is a silent death sentence. But the warm-up does more than activate individual muscles. What she's really priming is the sequence, the kinetic chain that allows force to travel smoothly from the torso into the arm. When the arm is firing early and correctly, it syncs better with the torso rotation that is the foundation of her power. If the arm is late, the timing breaks, and timing is everything in her style of play. She cannot afford to be searching for rhythm in the first 3 games of a match. She needs to begin with her trademark heaviness from the first point. Ankle is the base of every step she takes. It's the joint that absorbs the initial load whenever she pushes off, lands, or breaks. If it's stiff, tight, or unresponsive, everything above it begins to compensate. The calves, especially the soleus and gastrocnemius, start taking excessive tension. The tibialis anterior becomes overworked trying to stabilize her dorsiflexion. Even the deep stabilizers along the foot, like the peroneals that protect her from rolling her ankle outward, stop firing cleanly when the joint isn't moving freely. At her level, any hesitation in those muscles isn't just uncomfortable, it's a performance leak. What she's really doing when she moves through these patterns is waking up the small, overlooked muscles that create the micro-stability she depends on. Tennis movement isn't just sprinting and stopping. It's hitting off a compromised base, loading the outside edge of the foot during open stance forehands, carving the inside edge during recovery steps, and absorbing force at awkward angles that would fold a less prepared athlete. Those moments demand finely tuned proprioception, her ability to feel where her foot is without thinking. You don't get that from brute strength. You get it from giving those stabilizers the chance to fire, reset, and communicate with the rest of the chain. And with Iga, the chain matters. Her forehand relies heavily on her legs generating rotational force. If her ankle can't dorsiflex properly, she can't sink into the shot with the right depth. If she can't drop into that loaded position, her hips fail to rotate fluidly, and suddenly her entire swing loses weight. People focus on her racket speed, but that speed starts from how well she can coil and push through the ground. Every inch of lost mobility in the ankle is a direct tax on her power. Then there's the defensive side of her game. Iga is known for her ability to slide, even on hard courts, and that's where ankle mobility becomes irreplaceable. A stiff joint won't allow for clean deceleration. The body locks up instead of gliding into the stop. When she primes her ankles, she's giving herself the ability to enter and exit those slides with control rather than panic. It's the difference between arriving balanced for the next shot or scrambling just to stay upright. She's also playing a long season with endless transitions between surfaces. Clay demands deep ankle flexion for sliding and loading. Grass asks for constant micro-adjustments on an unstable base. Hard courts beat up the joint with repetitive impact. If she doesn't prepare the area before each match, she's inviting the kind of cumulative stress that leads to rolled ankles, calf strains, or nagging Achilles irritation. Mobilizing the joint isn't just performance, it's injury prevention built into her routine. Before a match, that bike serves as the spark that wakes up her entire system. Tennis doesn't start slowly. The very first rally can force a sprint, a sudden stop, a heavy rotation, or a deep lunge. If her cardiovascular system isn't already circulating hot blood through her legs, hips, and core before she hits the first ball, she risks asking cold muscles to do explosive work. The bike avoids that problem completely. It raises her heart rate gradually, pushes warm blood into the quads, hamstrings, glutes, and calves, and primes the joints, especially the knees and hips, to move smoothly. A simple pedal stroke forces synchronized engagement between those large muscles, and when they heat up, everything downstream becomes more reactive. She doesn't need intensity here, she needs rhythm. The bike lets her lock into a controlled cadence where she can feel her breathing settle into the pattern she'll use on court. That's a key part players rarely talk about. Her respiratory system needs rehearsal too. If her breathing is erratic early in the match, the rest of her movement becomes tight. The bike helps her slip into that smooth inhale-exhale cycle that keeps her relaxed once the points get physical. And the bike does something else that matters massively for Iga's game. It switches her nervous system into go mode. Light cardio acts as a signal to the brain that it's time to move quickly, react instantly, and coordinate the body without friction. For a player who relies on fast first steps, deep court coverage, and heavy leg-driven strokes, that nervous system activation may be the most important thing she gets from the warm-up. After the match, the bike becomes a completely different tool. This time, it's about undoing what the match has done to her. High-intensity rallies push lactic acid deep into the working muscles, especially the quads and glutes. If she stops abruptly, that metabolic waste just sits there, stiffening the muscle fibers and making recovery slow and painful. On the bike, she flushes all of that out. Low-intensity cycling increases circulation without adding further stress. It brings in oxygen, clears out metabolites, and allows the tissues to relax again. Treats the pre-match period like a switch that needs to be flipped. High energy, sharp movements, and a level of physical demand that already mirrors match intensity. As a coach, you recognize that this isn't for show. Her game depends on explosive transitions, repeat sprinting, deep defensive positions, and brutally heavy ball striking, so her body must be primed to operate at full speed from the very first rally. That's why she loads her warm-up with movements that wake up the nervous system, activate the right muscle chains, and push the muscles into the exact patterns she's going to rely on once the match begins. What stands out with her is how quickly she gets the lower body firing. Her game is built on that signature wide stance, the strong base that lets her redirect pace and stay stable even when she's sliding out to a forehand corner or absorbing heavy pressure. The warm-up forces her glutes, hips, and quads to start working early. Strong glute activation is crucial for the way she generates power from the ground up, because every heavy shot she hits is rooted in a clean transfer from the legs through the torso. If the glutes or hip stabilizers are asleep, you get a slower first step, a weaker push-off, and a torso that has to compensate. That's simply not acceptable at her level. She also fires up the hamstrings and calves because these two muscle groups control her acceleration and deceleration. The hamstrings take the load every time she brakes hard after sprinting for a wide ball. The calves stabilize the ankle during her aggressive directional changes, helping her stay balanced when she plants or pivots. For a player who loves taking the ball early and changing direction on the baseline, waking up those muscles is non-negotiable. Without them operating at high responsiveness, her movement loses its signature snap. As soon as she gets the legs going, she ties that into explosive actions that activate the entire kinetic chain. These movements wake up the fast twitch fibers, which she absolutely depends on. Her game is full of sudden bursts. She doesn't just move quickly, she accelerates violently. To do that repeatedly, her central nervous system has to be fully alert. Her warm-up sends a clear signal to her body. Expect speed, expect load, expect chaos. That's how she ensures that once the first ball is struck, her reactions are already at match tempo. Her upper body warm-up is just as intentional. Shoulders, forearms, and upper back muscles all get pushed early. Her forehand and backhand require tremendous rotational strength, and that rotation starts in the midsection. Her core muscles, obliques, deep stabilizers, and lower back, are heavily challenged in the warm-up because they control how she transfers power from the legs into the racket. If those muscles aren't engaged, she can't create the heavy topspin she's known for, or handle the counterpunching rallies she thrives in. Her shoulders and scapular muscles also get loaded to prepare for the constant acceleration-deceleration cycle of hitting. Tennis strokes whip forward fast, but it's the upper back and rotator cuff that handle the braking. Her warm-up ensures these muscles are awake and strong before she puts them under the stress of full-speed hitting. This protects her and helps maintain the clean, connected swing path that gives her ball such depth and bite.